bad, me sick, me Reggaeville.
Reggaeville family, this is 2023. We're at SummerJam, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a wonderful array of female artists coming in with their talent, with their power and energy. One of them who graced the stage today is Naomi Cowan. How is everything today?
Oh man, it's been perfect. You know, I've always wanted to be on this show, so I'm excited to kickstart my SummerJam journey because I don't think it will be my last. And I think for me, just to see the love that everyone has for the music is insane. Yeah.
Also being on the continent, touring Europe, I think this is something exciting for you. How have you been experienced the place so far?
Yeah, I have not done any European shows since the end of 2019. The first time I did some shows in Europe was with Jesse Royal. Prior to that, I had done 1 or 2 shows in London, but you know, for me now to just be out here on my own really is a blessing. And I'm just excited to share my growth because I've grown as a singer, as a performer, as an artist and everything. And I'm just grateful that people have stuck with me because it's so special when you have gone through your own journey and that on the other side, you're not alone. Yeah.
And I mean, your musical journey has basically started from birth, right? Because you were born into such an amazing musical family with your father, producer, songwriter, road manager for the great Bob Marley, Tommy Cowan, and your mom, the amazing reggae and gospel singer Carleen Davis. How was growing up in such a musical household?
Very loud. Very loud, meaning I didn't realize that I had an uncommon childhood until I, left home and lived on my own, because music was always just happening. Whether it's let's say we're driving to the country from Kingston to Negril or to Montego Bay, my mom and dad they're writing, they're listening to rhythms, recording them songs and recording hooks and whatever. Or I would be, as soon as I leave school, I have to go to the studio or go to rehearsals because my mom is the kind of person she didn't like to leave us alone, so she took us everywhere she could take us. So for me, it was just a lot of music all the time. I was just sitting there listening, sometimes singing along with her, sometimes she'll have me do background vocals with her, whatever the case is, but it was just constantly because of how much they love it. Like, that's why they love each other. The music is what brought them together. Music is what brought me to this world. But their love for music is very special because even today, they're still writing music. They just love the craft of it. So, yeah.
And would musicians come to your house also on a regular? Those would just be the people hanging around?
Yeah, man. So the funniest part is that a lot of the people that we now consider legends in reggae music, I don't think I realized that they were legends at the time. So whether it's Dennis Brown was one of my dad's really good friends, and so I was really, really young, but I just remember him always coming to the house and looking for my dad, and sometimes he would be outside beeping his horn, and like the car horn, and I said, "Daddy, Dennis Brown is really rude because he doesn't come to the door and knock on the door." And then when he died, and I realized, wait a second, hold on, Maxi Priest, anybody you can think of, my dad and mom, but my dad, he's touched the careers of so many people, but I didn't know. But those are his friends, and that was the life we knew. But it's only in hindsight, So, for example, Barris Hammond, who is, of course, in my eyes, a legend as well, but then I call him Uncle Barris because of the friendship that they have, and so it's cool.
But at what point in life did it really occur to you that I'm surrounded by people that are on stage and applauded by thousands and thousands of people?
I think it was when I went away for university and I left Jamaica, because even though I was always at these stage shows and stuff, I was always backstage. And I wasn't really looking, I guess I never really cared so much about the fame type of thing. It's just we'll go home. And then it was when I left home and people would just be like, your mom is, oh my God, you're, in Canada or in New York, anywhere I would go, is when I really left on my own. And people were like, your parents is when I realized it. And also on top of that, the type of people that they are, I don't want to say just humble, but they're just such lovely people that they don't walk around boasting about what they've accomplished. I actually have to sometimes do my own research and then go to them and say, oh my God, I didn't realize you did this and you met this person, you work with this person and boom, boom, boom. And my dad said, yeah, I did that. So they're just who they are. So because of that, I don't think I saw it as anything until I left. Yeah.
You mentioned that your mom had you sing background vocals, for example. So did they foster a musical career of yours, or did that just fall in place naturally?
Yeah, so they always supported anything I've ever wanted to do. And I was one of those kids that did everything. You know, every sport, every hobby, every activity. I wanted to try everything. And so they were just supportive of whatever I felt like doing. So if it was dancing, if it was singing, if it was anything, they were like, go for it. So they always left the door open for me, but they never forced me into the music. It was really, when I came into music, it was honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it was on my own, because I actually wanted to do what you're doing. I wanted to work in the media. So I went to university for broadcasting. And I wanted to be a presenter and like Oprah kind of a thing, you know. So, but music just kept calling me, and music is one of those things that when it lives inside of you, no matter how much you try to silence it, it's gonna come back up. So I recognize that I was kind of hiding, and I had to come out, you know. So truthfully, my path to music was like this, you know, it was like all over the place, and then I just said, let me go for it.
But isn't that crazy? Because I mean, as I mentioned, you were born into this musical environment, and then you thought, okay, I'm gonna go somewhere else, and hold on, music, no.
Yeah, you know, I guess I'm pretty strong-willed, and when I was a little, like very, very little girl, I think because so many people would always in Jamaica would be, oh, you're Carlene Davis' daughter, oh, you're Tommy Cowan daughter, and I wanted to be Naomi Cowan. I was like, I'm me, like, you know, obviously I love them, but I always felt this desire to be my own person, my own brand. And so maybe it wasn't that I didn't love the music, but I wanted to find a way to kind of cut through and be my own person. And that's a bit of a stubbornness, because I'm still making my own name now, right? But at the time, like, I think that's where it was coming from. It was like a stubborn, like, independent spirit of, I just want to show people, say, I am me. You see me? But once again, music is one of the few things that when I do it, I come alive. Like, I don't know if you saw my performance or whatever, but when I perform, it's just like, I just feel the most comfortable in my own skin. And so I realized that I had to do it, because then I would be lying to myself if I didn't. Yeah.
It's interesting though, because some kids, you know, if they are always in that same mom and dad are always doing the same, then at some point maybe they would rebel and say, I want to do the opposite or something totally different, right? But that was never really the case, right?
Right, because I've always loved the world of entertainment, because even as a presenter in the media, that's and my dad used to MC Sunsplash, which, I mean, to me, if it wasn't for Sunsplash, you wouldn't have a SummerJam. You wouldn't have you wouldn't have any of these big shows. Reggae Sunsplash was the original reggae festival, right? And he was the MC for the whole world tour, whatever. So even I got that gift from him, the gift of speaking and the gift of like welcoming people and presenting. So I kind of took a little bit from the both of them in terms of their energy. Yeah.
And I mentioned in the very beginning that you are a female artist among an excellent set of females that are at this festival throughout this weekend. Was it hard for you as a female and as someone with a big name already to enter this business, or would you find it easier?
You know, it's actually a little bit more difficult because, how do I say it? It's a little bit more difficult because people don't know what to expect, or they think that you've had it easy. And they don't see your struggles too, because I have my own struggles. I may not walk around with them on my sleeves, but I've had my own very, very difficult journey that brought me to this place. And I've had just like anybody else, I've had moments where I have $5 in my account, $0. You know what I'm saying? It's you know, life is not I guess the way I would say it is like everybody have to go through something, no matter where you come from, you know what I mean? And so even though I am incredibly blessed, I've had incredible struggles, which also lead to my blessings. So I would say coming into the space, I almost feel like it's been a little bit harder. But I don't see it as a bad thing. I just see it as an opportunity for me to stay focused on why I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I think, and the truth is that it's totally understandable that if you come from a certain background, people might just think that you had it easy, or that you're a little bit stuck up, or they think you're a little bit entitled. So I know, I'll be honest, like I know that there's certain assumptions that just the general space might make, but my mission is to just be myself. So at the end of the day, what I found is, as long as I'm true to me and how I feel and the love that I have in my heart, anybody around me will pick that up. And I don't really feel like I need to prove anything to anybody. And that's what I would even say, just being a woman in life, but also being a woman in this industry, it's about that same thing. If you just stick to your guns, listen to your trusting your own voice, no matter what assumptions people make about you as a female, your authenticity will shine, is what I found. Because sometimes women, we feel this weird pressure to be everything to everybody, and we want to show people, oh, I'm smart, and oh, I'm this, as even when, being in media, I know for me, I used to kind of battle with how I dressed, or how I, because you don't want to be too beautiful, because you're going to be a distraction to the people you're interviewing. And then there's just so many things you have to, and it's just so annoying. Yeah. It's like, what if you wanted to wear a 2-piece bikini today? It doesn't stop you from being a great journalist. You know what I'm saying? Or if you wanted to put extensions in your hair, it doesn't matter, right? But as a woman, we have a lot of, not only do we have people judging us for how we think, but we have people judging us for how we look and how we act. And so honestly, at the end of the day, my thing is, I'm just gonna be myself, girl. And then whatever happens, happens. And honestly, what I found is that by sticking to that way of living, the right people come, the right opportunities come, the right connection. I don't have to worry if I just focus on what's inside of here. So that's a long way to answer your question, but yeah. But you feel me, yeah.
Absolutely feeling you.
Yeah.
What I really love today, though, when you did your show today, you mentioned fellow female artists. You sang part of Savannah's song, Jazzy Lee's song, and that I really love that. And when I look at your Instagram, I see Shanique Marie and all of that. So tell me a bit about this female bond, because I mean, you're not just on the same rhythm, right? You're hanging together, obviously, and how is that spirit?
Well, I think the bond that women have is magical if we let go of our fears. Because I actually have 4 big sisters, right? I have 4 older sisters, and so I've always felt protected by other women. And when I stepped out of my home, I used to sometimes, of course, you may have girls that might not be nice to you at school, or might have teachers or whatever, but I've always felt like what women share is so powerful if we tap into it. So when it came to the music thing, like for example, Savannah, I've known her for a long time actually, because we used to sing together at church. Before I was a full-time musician, we used to sing. She and I used to sing together at church, and then I met Leela. I'll never forget. I met her at a Dubwise that Chronix was doing. I think David Rodigan. I don't know if David Rodigan was playing, but it was Chronix hosting it. And there was a freestyle thing. And Jason Panton, of course, Jason threw me up there. This time I don't have no music out, Jesus Christ. Kabaka was there. And I just did a piece of You're Gonna Lose by the Jamaicans, which is one of, my dad's old songs. And I kind of did a little honestly, I have no clue what I did. I just locked my eye. And I said, Jano, I hope me not embarrass myself, because and I got a big forward. And I remember I actually met Leela that night, and she's so funny because I'll never forget, she had her head wrapped with all sorts of things. So then I started to pick up that there was a lot of women in the space like rising up, and even I remember at that same time, that's when Shensia had first put out her single with Vibes Cartel and whatever, and I was like, wow, there's a thing, like this is a thing. But I never really, because we all were just doing our own thing. And then in 2019, I was on a Bob Marley birthday show, and I remember just having this idea, like, how cool would it be if Sev and Leela came on stage and we all did our singles, because at the time we all had, like, I had Paradise Plum, Leela had Second Chance, and Sev had, I think, Nobody Man or Sometime Love. I don't remember which one of the two. But I was like, guys, I'm doing the show. It's a quick thing. Like, just come forward. And then from that moment, I think the world started to be like, wait a second. There's some powerful girls, you know. So for me, with the bond between women, I think that because we go through so much of the same things, and as I shared before, the world challenges women in different ways. If we can support each other on our journey, I mean, you just can't go wrong. You know what I mean? And same, like, even when I did Lost in Time earlier this year, even though I knew that I wouldn't have had the girls on this, the girls from Rock and Groove, I was like, well, Rock and Groove represents women coming together. So to me, I was like, even if I'm not gonna have the original Rock and Groove girls, I wanted to create that space once again for anybody else to share their voice, because that's how we all get somewhere. Somebody have to open the door. You know, I mean, you can get certain places by yourself, but truthfully, we need each other. You know, so that's what it's about for me, because I guess also because my mom is just such a wonderful person, and she's been my biggest cheerleader my entire life. Never put me down, always empowered me, like always told me you're great. You know, she would always speak into my life and tell me your voice is so great, whatever. So I think maybe from that I was like, wait, women should stick together. You know, and then I'm blessed with sisters, so I just feel like if I can bring sisterhood to anything I do, let me do it. If it's natural, of course. Yeah.
But I think once it's natural, you can feel that,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
You don't even have to say it out loud, you know? People will feel the authenticity.
Yes, authenticity of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But speaking of collaborating with people, there is one collaboration just recently out now that we have got to talk about. Of course, we're on the area, right?
Yeah, you like it?
Yeah, man, that's bad one. You did, we have to say it, Toddler T, General Levy,
right.
and Idris Elba.
Yeah.
How did this come about?
Oh my God, it's so random, so crazy, so random, but at the same time, so right. So pretty much earlier this year, I was here in London working on a film project, and I knew I wanted to meet Toddler because we know each other through Instagram, but we've never worked together. I got to his studio in one day. We voiced 2 tunes, and I was like, oh my God, we work really well together. Then him called me the next day and said, listen, you know, say I have this tune sitting down, and I've always wanted a Jamaican woman on there. I have 2 men on there. I need a girl, I need a woman on there. And when I heard it, because it's garage kind of fusion, and I was like, well, you want me? I said, you know, I'm a singer, right? And him said, but me know say you can DJ. And I was like, okay, Toddler, no problem. And he played it for me, and I said, all right. And I said, let me write something. And I just voiced. Honestly, you know what? I wrote it kind of like, I don't say I wrote it as a joke, but I just wrote it from a more joyous place. I didn't take myself too serious. But then it ended up being a bad verse. And that's what it came to be.
But at the point when he said, I have this song and there are 2 guys on it, so did you know who those guys were?
Yeah. But I mean, that wasn't really like, for me, that part never even really mattered. I was just like, I was more, to be honest, I was a little bit intimidated by the genre. But him said, Naomi, I know you can DJ. I've seen your videos. I know I hear it in your songs. Go on through. And he empowered me, you know? So big up Toddler T as a man who really empowers women. And I said, okay. So and then after I voiced it, funniest stories, like I recorded it, he did a rough mix, he sent it to Idris. Within 10 minutes, Idris called him back, was like, who is that? He's like, is that Miss Dynamite? Who is that girl? And he's like, no, it's Naomi Cowan, And I was talking to him on the phone, he's like, you sound so great. So I'm so proud of it, I'm so excited about it.
You shot a video together also, how was that like?
Oh, so much fun. It was the funnest thing. It wasn't too serious. Once again, we shot my scenes in Jamaica. In April, because Toddler and I are working on an album actually. Mad thing. And he came to Jamaica, we did some songwriting, and then him say, yo, since I'm here, why don't we shoot your scenes? We shot my verses down there, and then we set up the London thing when I came back for Sunsplash. And it was fun, honestly. Like, everyone was just in the room because they loved the song and they loved the moment that we were all sharing together.
So you're working on an album, and you mentioned that you did this different type of music now. So what can we expect from this album? Yeah.
Well, from this album, what I will say is you can expect the vibration of Paradise Plum, but the next level of that.
Okay.
So in other words, I describe this album as reggae as a foundation, 100% reggae as a foundation. And then it shows you some influences that have taken place over the last couple of years. Because truthfully, other than the Stargirl mixtape, I hadn't really put out a reggae project, because the Stargirl mixtape was fusion, dancehall, pop, hip-hop. This album, oh God, I pay so much tribute to the genre, the samples that we have in there, the voices that we have in there, the horns. We did a lot of live laying of. Yeah, man, I wanted to be sure that when it reached the world, say I come from Jamaica. You see me? I didn't want it to feel like I was trying to be anybody else.
But producer-wise, it was all done by Toddler and in the UK?
No, in the UK and Jamaica. So Toddler is a producer on it. Runkus is a producer on it. Winter James has a track on there. So we have a wide variety of producers, but Toddler and I are co-producing it from like a executive producer standpoint. Yeah.
And do you play your music before it's released to your parents?
Yeah. So my mom actually sent me a bunch of notes on the album, more like vocal notes. So she's heard the whole thing. Yeah.
How are they feeling about the project? Since it's so much reggae and you said paying tribute, I mean, your father is part of that legacy.
Yes, I feel lucky that I can do this in this time, in this moment. There's so much happening, I think, for Jamaicans right now in music. Like if you look, like TJ just signed a deal with Warner Chappell, and Skilly Bang is doing really well, and I just feel like we're coming into this moment in our culture that I want to see Jamaica take back like some of that mainstream stuff, because we influence so much culture, and I'd love to see our industry get some of that strength again, because the more strength all of us get is the better for everybody. For you as Reggaeville, for me as an artist, for my musicians, for my style, for everybody. Once the music gets our strength, it trickles down and everybody can grow through it. So I'm excited about the project because I want to contribute to that growth. And our goal, like everyone I'm working with, everyone on the project, our goal is that it would transcend a lot of boundaries. So, yeah.
That sounds really like the right spirit. Definitely feeling you. Hoping for the same also. So I wish you all the very best for this album coming up. Super excited. Can't wait to hear it. So all the very best for this work still. And then I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, you'll be one of the first to hear, for sure. Reggaeville. Because from my first single, when I did over You're Gonna Lose, you guys did my premiere, featured my video. I think the video is on Reggaeville's YouTube and stuff like that. So, yeah. Can't live over Reggaeville.
Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. And as I mentioned, all the very best for the future.
Thank you, enough love.
Me mad, me sick, me Reggaeville.